All right, welcome back to Denver Gridiron and Hoops, and thanks for riding with us yet again. You are fortunate enough to see my ugly face on this one because this episode's coming to you with fresh video. But that being said, we're here to break down the offseason of the Denver Nuggets. We're going to start off strong by looking at kind of where the roster was left off at, what the hopes are, and kind of break down the salary cap and the incoming players that are potential and then potentially outgoing players. But with all that business aside, I'd like to introduce my brother, Vincent McDougal.
Hey, yes, Denver. Unfortunately, I do have to stare at his ugly face this entire time. But luckily, I can, just look at myself when needed to just take a break, take a breather, center myself, and just calm myself. But good to be here, coming fresh off smashing the first grill or steak on the grill this year. We don't buy expensive steak in this house. No porterhouse, no ribeye. I'm talking bottom of the barrel Sam's Club steak. I'm talking the type of steak where if you overcook it, you better have a good dental plan. And sure enough, I overcooked it. My son said, why does my jaw hurt?" After as he was eating his dinner. So that's okay. First steak of the year on the grill. I had to get my temperature control down. I'm on it. Don't worry. I'll come back with a better report later on, but excited to get into some action today.
I'm sure you battled through about a half a pack of plackers trying to, get that meat out of there. Vinny,
That's
one of the
just a
first
snack later on.
right? One of the first things I noticed now that, we're doing this a little bit more video style was when you brought your hand up, you showed that pinky right away. Go ahead and give them a little peek. Oh yeah, that's a broken pinky right there, by the way, folks.
Old high school football injuries that never decided to get repaired. But all this means is instead of having to use my pointer finger to point at people, I can just use my pinky. Hey, you better watch it.
Well, something tells me they get to drift quick. They're like, oh shit.
Ah,
but
for sure.
But all fun aside, so the Broncos, the Nuggets have a heck of an offseason in front of us. We're dealing with a brand new coach, soon to be GM. I haven't seen any announcements on it, but I don't think it popped yet. And really just kind of a barren shelf, unfortunately. We are so locked on the cap that we have to hope players like Dario Saric opt out on his player option, which is about, we're going to put it at about 5.5 mil. And above and beyond that, we have one draft pick that is from last year that was injured, and we are hopeful that he can come back to the team and actually contribute this year. Any immediate thoughts on our offseason ahead, Vinny?
Yeah, I wish we had something to be excited about. As of right now, it's hard to see any type of changes take place, but you look around and there's so much potential for change right now. People say that Giannis is going to be a domino that falls and just people are going to follow suit and more trades are going to occur. So hopefully once that takes place, maybe we can get in that mix. Obviously could be some key pieces. MPJ's name keeps getting thrown out there, but that really has been the case for 3-ish seasons now.
Yeah.
Pretty much every season post championship, his name comes around deadline. Is this a piece they're going to move? So he's used to it. We're used to it. But I'm hoping to see some sort of activity rather than maybe something later in the year. The draft obviously is going to be the time where these moves get made, if they get made. So the draft, what are we, a week and a half ish out from it? That'll be something everybody's going to get excited for.
Yeah, that being said, seeming as potentially, let's say we were a quarter away from the Western Conference Finals. If that is the case, and maybe we can't make a major move, but with some of these high impact dominoes, like, for example, you said Giannis, who knows if like Paul George or other players of that caliber are going to move. Honestly, if the Nuggets could just kind of slide in as one of those potential third, fourth teams in the trade package that actually end up swooping, like, let's say a seventh or eighth man, and just add that to the roster, like, I would be more than pleased with that than just kind of standing pat.
Yeah, agreed. And Jokic agrees. I
Right.
don't remember the exact quote, but he came out and said, hey, Indy, Minnesota, and OKC all have deeper benches, and they're the teams that are left. And I can't think of a bigger statement from him than that. Like, aside from him pulling, like, an American superstar comment of trade me. Like, I think that's about
Yeah.
as much as you're going to get from Jokic to say, like, we need to make a move. So that was actually good to see, good to hear. I hope that the front office listens to him. And that could be something that tips the scales of that extra quarter. Just something where you look back at the transaction and you're like, yeah, at the time it didn't seem like much, but wow, I'm surprised, or wow, this really fits well, because Jokic has the Tom Brady effect where, Troy Brown, Super Bowl MVP, it wasn't because he's this most skilled wideout ever. It's because Tom Brady made him who he was. And Jokic has that same capability. We see that on the roster he has now. He elevates everybody's play, not only because people are busy guarding him, double teaming, occasionally triple teaming, especially when he's in the paint, but also just his passing and basketball IQ puts them in the right situation. So he may elevate somebody's play that hasn't been, a superstar or rock star. And we've seen it, in the other side. So Brown, leaves, and he hasn't quite captured that same thing of when he was with us. Grant had a couple good seasons, but I think that's partially because he was just the option in Detroit. Like, it was just him.
Yeah, and he played himself into a lot of money, like
Oh yeah.
a god awful amount of money. Which by all means, like at the time, I was like, why would he do that? Why wouldn't he want to compete and everything like that? But then I saw his first contract and then his second contract, and I was like, oh, this guy's a genius. But yeah,
There's something to be said for that.
yeah, and I mean, one of the main things is so the Nuggets, I mean, I'm just going to throw a number on it. Let's say 5 years. Every offseason, it's been what are the biggest needs for the team? And one of them has always been backup center. I really do truthfully wonder that if we can get a backup center in here to at least give him a breather sometimes where we don't feel like we have to shove him back in the game, how much of an impact that's going to have on a season. And I think partly it's going to be pretty helpful that we at least got a new coach that's going to be a fresh take on things, because what I'm hoping is that instead of running one offense for the team, we have one offense. That's the way we do things, do it that way, and either contribute or sit on the bench. I'm hoping we actually run an offense for our bench unit, like a dedicated offense specifically for them. I've been wanting it forever, and I'm hoping that Adelman will bring that along.
Yeah, so you're saying you don't like the let's try and stagger Murray's minutes to see what he can pull out while he's leading the bench, which, ebbs and flows, or, what can we get out of Russ, running the offense with the second unit? You're not a big fan of that.
Well, even if they stagger Murray, do so with a purpose. Don't put him out there running the same offense, which is Jokic ball. Well, when you can't give it to Jokic, that whole offense falls apart. Let's try some motion offenses that get Murray moving off ball once he brings it up, of course, because he's unfortunately the only capable ball handler other than Russ. And basically, we just need an offense that allows our team, specifically the second unit, to function as a secondary team. We can no longer expect them to be an extension of the starters. I think they need to be separate, a separate entity.
Yeah, I could see that. You're right. I'm thinking of the last time we've had quality backup center minutes, and it's like maybe Mason. Is it Mason Plumlee?
Yeah. Well, funnily enough, we had Hartenstein, but Malone wouldn't play him. Now he makes 26 million a year for the Thunder. Terrible contract, by the way. I stand by. I think that contract is going to kind of hamper them going forward. Same way Minnesota, and I wanted to get into this in the intro one we had, but I never did. I really do think Tim Connolly ruined the future of that team. I think they were on the trajectory of Oklahoma City, and he microwaved them by trading everything for Gobert and then getting rid of Cat for what I thought was not as much value as he could have really got back in return for that. And then basically just ruined their future. All their picks are gone. They are stuck with Rudy Gobert, who is, although he's been relatively successful, he is not a playoff player. Unfortunately, his game doesn't jive with modern NBA. But digging into the weeds a little bit there because it's a former GM, so kind of digging the claws in on that one.
Nobody wants to hear about T-Wolves around here.
That's a fact. But the fact that our division, we are stuck with the Thunder, the Timberwolves, and really, I mean, those are the main ones these days that are really our our hindrances, it's gonna be tough for years to come.
Oh yeah, we're not going anywhere either. That's the thing is, as much of a threat as they are, both teams absolutely, not only respect, but in some instances fear what Jokic can do to them in a
Yeah,
series. Ants brought, although the last 2 seasons, both of them have beat us, but that's why the head coach and the GM are fired now, right? They have not
the
set this team
Nuggets.
up for success.
Yeah. He literally set up his team to
Hmm.
defeat the Nuggets, and that being said, he did a great job because I've said since the Lakers series, I think it was the bubble year, where they just constantly ran 2 7-footers at him all game. It flusters him, and that is a formula for success against him. But yeah, we have to kind of set ourselves up to hope, unfortunately, that this Deron Holmes, who is going to be our red shirt rookie from Dayton, who it seems like he averaged uh towards the end of his stint, he was able to kick up his 3-point average, which would be obviously a contribution. But other than that, it seems like he's kind of an average player. 8.5 rebounds, 2.6 assists, 2.1 blocks. Obviously, that's a high block total, so hopefully that carries over. But I'm not quite sure what to think of this guy. Did you get a chance to watch him at all in college?
I didn't, and if we're hanging our hopes on him putting us over the edge, we're in trouble.
Yeah.
It's good to talk to him though, and I'm curious how his game develops. Again, the Jokic effect. He's going to make that transition as a young player much easier than playing on any other team. I mean, I think that's part of the reason why some of the rookies we have, I shouldn't say rookies, some of the younger players we have had success and good moments is because Jokic has made their lives a lot easier. So I don't think he would be any different from that stance, but we'll see how the roster shapes out by the time we get to opening day.
Yeah. So tell me, where do you stand on DeAndre Jordan and Vlaco Chanchar? Both of their contracts are up. They've kind of notoriously been just little spot holders on our roster. Chanchar, obviously, he's Jokic's buddy. I'm wondering if Jokic would prefer to keep him around just for comfort or if he's ready to compete and add that competitive roster spot there. And DeAndre Jordan, obviously he's been chemistry, but I mean, what is he? 55? No, I just kidding. But yeah, what do you think about those two?
Yeah, it was funny watching Jordan in the playoffs, first up off the bench, cheering everybody on in the huddle, standing next to Jokic, with his hands on his knees, listening intently, waiting for that next move, trying to boast the guys up, which is you have that veteran guy always on a roster that does that. So I mean, I have no problem with just them being on the roster in general, because once again, I mean, if you move them, you're going to get, somebody very similar in replace of it. At least we know Jordan will be that solid teammate, try and be that veteran presence, even though what has he won? I don't think he's won anything really.
He
I
was
don't
he
even
was
know if
hoping
he's
we would get it for him.
right. Like maybe he went to a conference final with the Clippers, when they had
Yeah.
Lob City, but I mean, there's not much to that outside of it.
Yeah, he's
But
definitely a glue guy.
yeah, I mean, it won't happen, but to get somebody, like if we can get somehow, some way, like a Brooke Lopez instead of a DeAndre Jordan, something like that, that would be like, okay, wait a minute, like now we got somebody who is probably past his starting days. I know he started a bunch this season for the Bucks, but you can see towards the end of the season they're like, maybe we should shake up our lineup a bit. Because he has morphed his game to hit more threes, but a solid backup center like that would really change the dynamics of the team. But once again, we're just hamstrung by the salary and lack of draft picks.
Yeah, and unfortunately, the way Calvin Booth, I'll always hammer back on that draft where he drafted all those players instead of trading any of those picks away. And then instead of putting them on like two-way contracts or something like that, he put them on full-fledged NBA contracts, which made it so players like DeAndre Jordan, who would typically be an end of the bench guy that, it doesn't even matter. Well, we don't even have those spots. And so the fact that DeAndre Jordan and Chanchar don't play and take up those slots, it's like a double negative because I mean, we could always get a veteran in on a minimum deal who actually does play. But some of those
Mhm.
things could change with the coaching change in terms of different players getting different minutes. And I think we just have to kind of, off-season strategy of hope that some of those things succeed. But it's just not looking great in terms of the picture. But who knows? Maybe tomorrow they trade for Trey Murphy and all of us are freaking out. He just
Trey Young.
oh yeah, Trey Young, I'd take him too. Trey Murphy's the Pelican.
Yeah.
But that being said, there's some rumors speculating around him, but that's how it is. They're all rumors anyways. But
Mhm.
um yeah, it's just really at this point in time, we're at the wait and see moment for sure.
Yeah, draft was right around the corner. There are a couple, stars that the teams have to decide whether or not they want to re-sign them.
Yeah.
Ice Tray is one of those, people. They may decide they don't want to resign him. So what do? They try and get some value for him before he leaves next year. It's moves like that where I'm curious to see if we can be that third or fourth team, like you said, or if MPJ entices a team enough to make that move. But that most likely would be where we get significant talent is somebody the team does not want to re-up. They don't believe in them anymore, but they're due for that max type of money. And then, can they get value for that player before they're gone and go to free agency?
Yeah, and Ice Tray is pretty polarizing in terms of what people think about him. Me personally, I think with Jokic, his ability to shoot from a little bit deeper, like Murray's a good 3-point
Mm.
shooter, but Murray's an on the line 3-point shooter. And Ice Tray is the type to be like, oh, well, I'll shoot it from 4 feet back here. And then that, I know it's strange, but that has a gravitas on the defense and it makes it bend a little bit to your will a little bit. And not only that, but I think that Ice Tray would actually be able to assist Jokic, whereas
Mhm.
most of Murray's is like he's only passing it because he couldn't because he couldn't shoot it, instead of setting Jokic up for success. So that's where I think Ice Tray would be a pretty good complement to Jokic.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, I think it was 11-ish assists this year he averaged. Obviously, was in the All-Star game,
Hey,
had
to
some
be an
crazy
all-star
moves.
teammate, you've been waiting for that.
Hey, I've been wanting that. And you are 100% right. Look at the difference, between Curry's range and Murray's range. Just compare the two players. So much more is wide open for Curry because you have to play him way beyond the arc
Yep.
versus like, oh, we're gonna wait for you to come to us because we know you're not shooting the ball out there. And yes, Trey Young will jack it up from way out and he'll hit it. So it would be an interesting, dynamic, an interesting duo, but then the organization has to stay, are we willing to move on from Murray and the Hawks? Is that a name that you think would draw, in the market? Obviously, the Murray draw probably wouldn't be to the level of Trey Young, but then again, if you're not going to pay the guy, you got to get something in return. If not, you're rebuilding from scratch again.
I was really hoping before the offseason had started that we could package something together for Zion Williamson, but that went completely out the window with the news that he had. So obviously that would have clogged the lane more and everything, but I believed in the talent. Now the character is a whole nother thing, which puts him completely off the table. Is there any other players out there besides, say, Trey Young or anything like that that particularly intrigue you? Now, obviously, ones that we'll say relatively in reach.
Yeah, again, I'm going to a guard again, but Kyrie,
Oh.
I know he's long in the tooth. Wow, I feel old just saying that. Put me in the unk status for saying long in the tooth, but he is about to be due some serious money from the Mavs. I don't believe it's a player option. I think it's the Mavs have the option. And same scenario. Do you pay him knowing he's late in his career, coming off injury? You're trying to do a little bit of a rebuild in that org. You have Cooper Flag coming in? Or do you find him if the Mavs struggle? Because they're saying, we're ready to win now, but you're out of the playoff game or out of the play-in game 30 games into the season. Pressure starts to build up. Do you make that move? So I think him and Jokic, that's the same reason him and LeBron fit together so well. Because he can force the defense to do anything he wants. Because he
Literally.
will break you down, up, down, left, right. And if you're not all over him, he's going to make you pay. And that would open up, room for Jokic to operate, open up room for Kyrie to operate. Now, can he stay healthy? Can he stay motivated, engaged, interested? I think whatever happened in Brooklyn, you know, he kind of put a black eye on him, but I mean, by all accounts, he made it back to the finals with Luca. This past season was doing, well without Luca until he got hurt, which is pretty darn fast after Luca left. But I think if he can be healthy, that would be something that would be at bare minimum a blast to watch. It
Yeah.
reminds me of like when the Nuggets picked up AI way back in the day.
Right. Yeah.
Like, if nothing else, it was some of the most fun basketball you could watch because you never like they could just absolutely blow teams out or make silly mistakes, but it was a blast to watch.
Yeah, and Kyrie is one of those interesting players, kind of like what I mentioned with Trey Young, how he can contort a defense. Same thing with Kyrie because he can break down off the dribble. I mean, let's be real. Like Murray does have some good penetration, but it's typically only when he catches an edge. Whereas Kyrie can literally create the edge with his dribble moves, and he can pick and like he can. It's left or right. It's not primarily one direction. So just his ability to do that can actually draw an additional defender. And I'm not just talking an additional defender on the edge side. I'm talking basically help within the middle where they're shading his opposite end as well. So that would also open up some things for Jokic. I think my other one, funnily enough, you brought up Nets, and I'm a sucker for some of the old time thoughts here. Um, and I'm gonna go with KD. I think that Phoenix is gonna be basically what they've done for the last 6 years, make a move every 2 years. And I personally think that we could put together a package. Like, I don't know if it's enough, but let's say MPJ, the first round pick from 2031, which I know is not that enticing, but it's a first rounder. And then let's say Christian Brown or Peyton Watson plus, whatever the case may be. I think to put someone like KD next to Jokic would not only put them over the top, I think they would be a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah, I mean, I think you'd have to give up Murray.
You're
I
probably
don't,
right.
and that's what makes it tough because they have Booker.
Yeah.
But maybe there's a third team in there involved where Murray goes to this third team and then the third team gives a piece to the Suns that they're looking for. But in terms of just play, I mean, look at the gold medal game from the Olympics. I mean, sorry, it would have been to go to the gold medal game. I mean, you saw Durant just absolutely tearing it up, and then Jokic doing it for the other side. And the other piece it would allow Jokic to do is to actually ball watch for once in his entire life. I mean, the poor dude has never been allowed to watch the ball for, a few possessions, let alone, a quarter if he needed to. And that's what these second players do for that second tier guy can do for Jokic is give him a chance. Okay, maybe he can apply himself a little more defensively because he doesn't have to bear the entire offensive load by himself. I mean, the teams in the finals now, Jalen Williams, he does it on both sides of the ball. And he can score from deep or he can break you down off the dribble. I mean, those three things alone make you an elite basketball player. As a matter of fact, an all NBA basketball player. That takes pressure off Shea. We saw what happened to OKC when Jalen Williams didn't have good games. They struggled big time. And this is what a player like KD could do for Jokic. I was looking at, and I know we're going down a rabbit hole again, but looking at Siakam stats, when he helped Toronto get over the hump. And here he is now again. I mean, he is an excellent basketball player. And
Wanted him a couple years ago.
he does it on both ends too.
Yeah.
And it's the same with Durant. Durant's length just gives people problems. His length and athleticism allows him to guard different types of positions on the floor, help defense, which again, this is what these elite players do. They give you something on both sides of the ball.
And despite the rap he's gotten, like when I watch Durant play, I see the effort on defense. Like it's not one of those things where he doesn't put in the time on the other end. And really, like honestly, obviously getting a player like Durant, we're talking 2 years if he's healthy of that elite window, hopefully. You know what I mean? But to me, when it's win now, you got to take the 2 years. Like even if it's getting rid of Murray, if you're telling me that we now got to have a pick and roll between two 7-footers, like I'm not going to complain, man.
Yeah, it's and love Murray for everything he's done, right? We wouldn't have, the championship
Definitely.
without his hot streak. We would not have it. But if we had somebody instead of Murray at an elite level, do we have two instead of one? That's me looking over the fence like, what is the grass greener over there?
Yeah.
Because yes, without a doubt, he gave us, that championship along with Jokic, right? Don't get it twisted. But has he also hindered the growth of this team post championship? Their numbers kind of look like that. He got destroyed in that Minnesota series, so much so he threw a fit, literally threw a fit like a toddler. And then this OKC series, he would disappear for very long stretches, just disappear.
Well, and unfortunately, like more than anything, like by all means, love Murray. We wouldn't have a championship without him. And as a Denver Nuggets fans, we didn't think it would happen. We're not being ungrateful in terms of what he has done, but it's more or less like what have you done lately? And like you had mentioned earlier in the show, where we try to run Murray with the bench. Pretty much any other NBA elite player on max contracts, you run them with the bench, and all of a sudden their scoring goes up because they're playing against bench players. They're taking over, and they're what does Shaq say? Fried chicken, like you know what I mean? Like they're cooking. So just the fact that he doesn't and he defers in those moments when like, why don't you defer like when Jokic is on a pick and roll, rolling to the rim open, but you decide to hold the ball for an extra half a second, and now he's covered and now you're covered. Like, those are my pain points right there.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, there's just things stylistically, and I don't know what it is, but there is an apprehension for Murray to pass to the open guy sometimes. And it could be he doesn't trust them, aka MPJ, but I'll see him, dribble down and try and take on two defenders and right there wide open on the wing is somebody, wide open, just saying, hey, pass me the ball. But then I'll see him openly make a pass to Jokic, openly make a pass to AG. But like Russ, MPJ, they might as well have been getting back on defense because he wasn't
Right?
giving them the ball.
Yeah.
And that just, I mean, it's tough for a team to stretch the defense in ways when they know you're not going to do it.
Yeah.
Now, again, is that a lack of trust? Is that me just overinflating what I was seeing? It could be a combination of the two, but you could definitely tell that there's an apprehension to give certain people the ball. Whereas you watch Jokic, he doesn't care who you are. If you're open, you're going to get the ball. It's just going to happen.
Yeah.
And didn't see the same from Murray.
Now you brought up Russell Westbrook. He has a player option next season. Do you think he'll kind of surprise us and decline it and move on?
No way. No way. You can see that he enjoys playing here. Either that or he hated the Clippers organization so badly that, he just went over the top. But I'm trying to think of the last few teams he's played for. So he's played for Wizards,
Lakers,
Lakers, who essentially kicked him out, Clippers, who essentially kicked him out,
Houston, OKC.
Brooklyn.
Or wait, was he on Houston? I'm not sure. I know he was OKC. Well, obviously.
Yeah. So, but I'm thinking more recently. He was pretty darn close to getting the Carmelo Anthony treatment. If he didn't come to Denver, he'd be Carmelo Anthony part 2, where basically, hey, buddy, you might as well just retire.
But he's got so many buddies. I could see him getting on a squad. I think he really loved playing for the Nuggets until about the last 10 games. Because, like, for example, I was watching the locker room interviews, and one of them, he was just like, yeah, I don't know who wants to win here. Like, literally, like, just saying that to the camera and, like, looking around. And I was just like, I didn't know if it was shots at players, but now it seems like maybe it was because the coaching and GM stuff was kind of in shambles, but also probably because some of the players were dragging. But that period in time kind of led me to question whether or not he'll be back this year. If he does come back, I'll welcome him in open arms because he's been the best backup point guard we've had. I'd say since Monte Morris, not saying specifically one's better than the other, but Monte Morris was just Mr. Consistent. So it was like we knew what to expect from him, and that was kind of the case. It wasn't Agent Chaos like Russell Westbrook is, if you get what I mean. But if we could somehow return Russell Westbrook to that sixth, seventh player, not needing to carry a load almost as if he was a starter, I really do think that, and I thought this going into last year, was that he would be a very productive player in the right role. I think we had to lean a little bit too heavily on him, and my hopes are is this upcoming season that's not the case.
Yeah, Adelman, at least in the OKC series, you can tell he didn't like Westbrook. I mean, he talk about a short leash. I'm not saying that he played well in the short amount of time that he got. He would have turnovers, bad shots, but you have to let him play through it. That's part of the Westbrook experience is you don't just get the bad from him and then pull him out. You need to wait to get the good from him too, because it's coming. It's just a matter of time. And in that OKC series, he did not get that time. Adelman just kept pulling him out. And if you think about it, we don't beat the Clippers without Westbrook. If you take Westbrook off that team, I don't think we make it out of the first round. I'd love to see him back too. And if he wants to win a ring, he should stay, because I think this is one of his best opportunities. These other teams, they just don't have a need for his style of play.
Yeah. And thinking back on some of my frustrations in the playoffs was the offensive setup. It's like, okay, well, we don't want Russell Westbrook to shoot threes, but we're going to have him kind of tail on the backside of the play and post up from three. Like, why aren't we using him as a slasher? Like, what's going on here? So if you don't like a certain aspect of someone's play, don't highlight it as what we're going to be going to. It really drove me nuts, because if we have Westbrook slashing to the lane every play with or without the ball, that play has a tremendous amount of more success than if he's posting up from three backside of either the ball handler and or complete backside of the play. So that's just some frustration leaking out on that end from me.
Mm-hmm.
But that being said, there's not much more flexibility in the roster. Obviously, we've got some two-way guys. We've got the end of the roster guys in Jalen Pickett, Hunter Tyson, which Jalen Pickett actually got a little bit of run at the end of the season, so it seems like they're going to try to make him work. My main fear with him is just he's a point guard who can't get past the half-court mark without help. He either has to pull the Jamal Murray and basically post up the defender past the half court line, or he needs to pass it off. And that comes in two phases in terms of, number one, you need someone that can be able to do that, especially during clutch times. And then number two, if he doesn't got the speed to get across half court, he's not guarding anybody that's a point guard. So he's a tweener that is not actually a shooting guard because he's too short to be so. So, yeah, a lot of concerns on him. You got any takes on Jalen?
Yeah, he's going to be 25 now this year?
That's correct. He's 25 currently.
Yeah. I mean, how much change do we really expect from 25-year-olds in the NBA? What, MPJ's like 26?
That's correct as well.
So, I mean,
man, Jokic is 30. That makes me so sad, Vinny.
Yeah. What changes do we expect from MPJ? What changes do we expect from Pickett? I don't expect much. But obviously, with more minutes, should see your points per game come up, your stats come up, and see what he's got. For me, if we do stand pat, I think what would benefit us the most, and this is going to sound crazy, which is getting more from Jokic. But if we could get him to somehow, some way, develop the smallest bit of a left hand, he would be virtually, it's like Shaq in free throws.
I mean, I've seen him only in post plays using left, but not further back from the hoop.
Even in post, they were literally shadowing him so much away from his left hand that literally there's a few times he would do like a spin move and he'd have nothing there. But that's the piece of his game I equate it to Shaq's free throws. If Shaq was able to shoot free throws, he would have been all-time leading scorer. If Jokic is able to come off of his pinning his right shoulder versus pinning his left shoulder with a right hook, I mean, he will be unstoppable. If you ever go back to either series, the OKC or Zubats, you'll see how heavily they were shadowing him and forcing him to go left, and he just it's just a comfort thing, right? He can still score 30, 40, 50 points, using that right hook, but right-handed shots. But that I think would make a huge difference for his game for the Nuggets as well.
And I feel like he relied way too heavily on his kind of inside heavy step spin because the defense was ready for it every time. They would, matter of fact, they'd be waiting for it. And it was like, Jokic, you've got the deepest bag in the NBA. Why are you going back to that single move every freaking time? It was a bit frustrating. But I I think we need to kind of really hope, if things stay stagnant, is that Julian Strother and Peyton Watson somehow become role players, actually contributing, relied upon for 15 to 20 minutes apiece. That's really our own, that if things stay the same, I think that's our only hope. They're respectively 22 or sorry, yeah, 22 and 23 years old. Peyton Watson's still the youngest guy at 22. Pretty interesting, but
Can
we
still
draft.
develop.
Yep, still develop. So those are the guys that are kind of going to be our hope once again. That's kind of the theme of this offseason, unfortunately. But that being said, I think we've just about covered all the grounds we're gonna cover here. You got any hangnail remaining, something you got to get off your chest on this?
Come draft night, just remember anything is possible. We can make a sick trade that sends us over the top, and we can also watch other teams crumble, not necessarily the Thunder or the T-Wolves, who we talked about earlier, because they're just going to get better. But I digress. Something's going to happen. Nuggets going to make a move. We're going to have a ton to talk about come post-draft night.
That's what I like to hear. Well, folks, where the takes are hot, maybe not some spicy ones today. We're kind of dealing with the depression of the situation we're in here right now. But that being said, this is where you need to come for your Denver Broncos and Denver Nuggets news. Denver Gridiron and Hoops. See you guys later.
Peace.